How better go, how better go there, how better go there, how better go where, how better go here, how better now, how better go.
Things to check before buying land. Welcome back. I'm Ted Thomas, and for the past 30 years, I've been involved in tax defaulted real estate and land. So we're going to talk about that today. So it's pretty surprising to learn that tax defaulted real estate and land is available at auction in over 3,000 counties across the United States. So this is available everywhere, and surprising for most people to find out that 20 or even 25% of the properties could be land that are in default that sell at these tax defaulted auction. So I'll be right back and give you lots of details on that. Okay, imagine thousands of properties that are going to be at tax defaulted auctions. More than 5,000 auctions take place across the United States every single year. Now, the properties have starting bids 10 cents, 20 cents on the dollar, and these properties have no mortgage that's been deleted by the treasurer and no trust deed loan on the property. So you're buying these properties without the mortgage or trust deed loan. However, they could have other municipal liens on the property. That's something you want to check for. Well, at this point, you're probably asking yourself, what do I need to know about land? Well, there's quite a bit you need to know. So you probably want to start a little list. I'll give you some ideas here to think about and to check on. Now, it's always a good idea to get a hold of a land broker, not just a regular real estate broker, but think about a land broker because they know about the land and they can tell you a lot about it. So I'd start a little checklist, which is what I'm going to help you with today. So I'll give you a list of ideas. You make notes. That'll be a good place to get started. So I discovered tax defaulted real estate about 30 years ago, and I never looked back since then because I could buy properties with starting bids of 10 and 20 cents on the dollar. They didn't always sell for 20 cents on the dollar, but they certainly started the bidding there. So it was a good place to start, especially when I found out they didn't have a mortgage lien or a deed of trust. All right, now sometimes up to 25% of an auction list will be just land. Now there's all kinds. Some of the land is in the subdivision, some is agricultural, some is residential. You never know what it's going to be, but there's lots of different kinds of land. So land is perfect for beginners when they're getting started because you can start at some pretty low price and you don't have to worry about having high mortgages or deed of trust loans on them. So let's start our search with what we're going to look for, okay? So I would start off finding out who the previous owner was and is the title clear. So that might be the number one thing I'd write down. Now, why do I want to find that out? Because I want to find out if they left any other liens on the property. All right, so if a property sold at auction, what really happened is the property owner did not pay the property tax. So if they haven't paid their property tax, are there other bills that haven't been paid? So you'll want to start checking on that. Are there other bills that might come due? Now, as I said, the loan or the deed of trust will be deleted, but there could be other liens on the property. The property was confiscated by the local government. The local government, the county, doesn't want the property. What they want to do is they want to get rid of it, and they want to get rid of it quickly, so they bring the prices way down. By that I mean they'll start out at the delinquent back taxes to sell that property because they want to motivate people to come there and buy the property, get it back on the tax roll. All right, so what do you need to know about this land? Well, is it developable? In other words, could you go out and build homes on it? Or is the land for agriculture only? Could you only use it for, say, row crops or maybe orchards? Or could you use it for grazing land? In other words, you want to know what the use of the land is before you buy it. Because if you buy it and it's only good for grazing cattle and you don't want to graze cattle, I don't know if you want to buy that land. But you want to buy land, know what the use is so that you can sell it to someone that really wants to use it. Now, where are all the records for all this? They're all at the county records, so you can get all the records you want on these properties. All right, so the answers are there. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, they have planning departments, they have zoning departments, they have literally rooms filled with records, everything from the time the county first started to right up to date. So you can go there and do all the research you want, and nowadays you can learn how to do that online. So you want to find out, are there restrictions? For example, can you hunt on this land? Could you go fishing? Are you allowed to have recreation vehicles on the land? There's many different ways that people use raw land, as they say. Now, raw land or natural land where there's nothing been done to it. In other words, it doesn't have any roads on the land, doesn't have any water attached to it, doesn't have any power coming to the land. So that would probably just be natural land, all right? So there's going to be different types of land. So just like there could be a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom house, you're going to find lots of different things about the land. So when it comes to new buyers, it's important that they kind of look at things. Now, what's the ingress and egress? In other words, how do you get in and out? That's going to be important. What about roads? Does it have any roads together? All right, now a lot of this can be looked at using the GIS mapping system. What is that? It's a geographical information mapping system. And most counties have it. It's free. It's going to tell you a lot. You'll be able to see the county roads, be able to see the superhighways, you'll be able to see the topography, a lot of things on that mapping system. So you want to start researching. So what are we talking about today? Well, today's episode is things to check on before you buy the land. You're going to want to know what you're going to do with that land, so you need to really check on it, okay? Satellite pictures are going to tell you just about everything that you need to know. It used to be just aerial photographs, but now you have the aerial photographs, and you have the satellite, and you have the mapping. So you can find a lot about this property before you get into it. Now, land surveys are something you want to think about. Now, if you're sitting in a car and you drive up to what you think is the land, you can't see the boundaries. You don't know. The land all looks the same when you're sitting in the car. So what if you were trying to buy a piece of land and someone else had already encroached on it? In other words, they had built a fence on your land, or they were growing vegetables on your land, or something like that. Or worse than that, what if you were doing it on someone else's land and they were going to come along and have a lawsuit? The point is, you care about this, so you want to start checking on these things. All right, now, most properties sold at auction are not going to have a land survey, but a land survey will depict the boundaries of the land. So you need to know what those boundaries are before you buy at a tax auction or anywhere else, because the county is going to sell you the property as is, where is, and you need to know what you're doing before you buy that property. So a big concern is always this encroachment. Now, encroachment's a problem because people take over other people's land just because the other people aren't there. They just kind of start taking over your land or the land that's available to them, and so encroachment is a big problem. All right, so if you're going to buy it at an auction, you need to know what you're buying. That's very important. So you need to spend a little time doing some research. All right, now, what else do you want to research? Well, put on your list, do you need water? Does the property have water? Where's the water coming from? What's the source? Is it permanent? Is it a county water? Or is it water that comes from a river? How do you get water to that property? What else might you need? How about power to the land? If you're going to raise crops, you're probably going to have to spread water onto it. You're probably going to need electrical pumping and things like that. So what are you going to do about power? Does it have power to land? What about the roads, ingress and egress? Does it have roads so you can drive there and visit what you have and other people can work on the land, whatever? These are all things that you want to check on when you're buying a tax defaulted property, or for that matter, any property. So things to check on land. There's a lot of things to check on. And that's what this episode is all about. So just kind of make some notes as you go along here or replay the video, but you need to do your due diligence. Now, when the county sells a property, they sell it as is, where is. So it's buyer beware when you're buying at a tax defaulted auction. Yes, the bidding starts at 10 or 20 cents on the dollar, but that doesn't mean it's going to end there. So you need to know what comparable values are in other parts of the county that you're buying it. So you don't want to pay too much for it. You won't be able to sell it, and it won't be a good investment from an ROI standpoint. So I'm sure you're getting the idea. All right, now if you can buy land for 10 and 20 cents on the dollar, you can sell it for 30 or 40 cents on the dollar. Maybe that's enough for you to make money. So how are you going to sell property? Well, you could use Craigslist. You could use land.com. You could use land flipping. You could use the MLS system. You could use Trulia, Zillow. You're getting the idea. All right, so there's lots of ways to sell, but you need to have thought that out ahead of time. It's more than just putting a little sign there and saying for sale. All right, a lot of people have trouble selling because they don't know about selling, and so they just wait and hope someone's going to buy it. All right, now, are you willing to work? I'm sure you are if you're an investor. All right, the county needs money. So what the county does is when people don't pay their taxes, they confiscate the property and they resell it into the marketplace. If you can buy it for 10 or 20 cents on the dollar, that's good. But you need to have an exit strategy. So what is your exit strategy? Are you going to sell for 50 cents? Are you going to hold it for a while? Are you going to put row crops in? Are you going to develop orchards? I don't know what you're going to do it, but you need to think about your exit strategy before you buy it so that you don't spend too much money. All right, so if you're willing to work, and I know most successful people are, and you're willing to build a portfolio up, then you're going to have to start thinking out of the box, but keep the list that I'm giving you because there's a lot of things to check before you start buying this land. All right, now, in the tax defaulted business, you don't need a license. You do not need a license. You can just get started right away buying from the local governments. There's over 3,000 counties. They're all going to sell tax defaulted property. They're all going to start at basically the back taxes, 10 to 20 cents on the dollar. But I don't know what it's going to sell for, and neither do you until you get there. But you need to have a plan. If you're going to buy it, what are you going to do with it when you get it? All right. So you don't need a license to do it. Anybody can do this. So let me give you an example. This example is one of my students. What did he do? He finished a training, and then he likes to buy land, all right? So he started going and looking at the auction. He found a property that was coming up for auction. So I'll describe it, show you what he did with it, and then he ultimately resold it. Now, he did this in the state of Georgia. Just bought 4 acres of land at the tax defaulted auction. But before he ever bought it, he went out and checked on it, and he found out the tax assessed value was $30,000. All right, so he went to the auction. There was other bidders there, but he ended up purchasing the property for $6,000. So that's a pretty good purchase price, right? Way less than the value of the property. So keep in mind, the property owner in some states can come back and redeem. So he bought it in the state of Georgia, and that means in Georgia, they have a redemption. So the property owner could come back and redeem anytime they wanted in the first year. Well, the property owner did not come back and redeem. All right, now if he had come back to redeem, they would have to pay a redemption. That means they'd have to pay 20% in Georgia in the first year. So whatever he paid, he would get his money back plus 20%. That's what a redemption is all about. All right, well, in this case, the people didn't come forward and redeem. So the property owner did not come forward. So a short time later, my student sold the property. Now, you remember, he bought it for $6,600. That's the idea of going to a tax defaulted auction. Buy it for pennies and then resell it for a good price later. Ultimately, he did. He sold it for the value of the property of $30,000 at a later time. All right, so what are you after here? You're trying to buy low, and sometimes people sell it low. In this case, he didn't have to. He bought it low, and then he ultimately sold it for $30,000. Now, he didn't do that overnight. It took some time to do all that. But the point is, you had a nice margin in that property. That's the whole reason for getting involved in tax defaulted property. All right, now I'm going to run out of time on this video. So what I need to tell you at this point, you see those little white circles? That's how many auctions are taking place within that state in the next 90 days. This calendar updates every single day. I'm here today to show you how to make money. To do that, I'm going to show you briefly that there are thousands of tax defaulted real estate properties across the 3,000 plus counties in the United States. This is quite interesting. You're looking at the Ted Thomas Magic Interactive Map and Auction Calendar. It changes every day. Now, I created the calendar and the map so I would know how many auctions are taking place every day in the United States. Now I can show the little guy how to make money. Most importantly, I created this system so I could have an auction list for each auction 24/7. All right, now in the small counties, small population counties, I should say, they're going to have hundreds, well, dozens to hundreds of these tax defaulted properties to sell. But in the large population counties, they're going to have hundreds, and I've been to auctions in large counties where they'll have thousands of these properties to sell. You can take advantage of all that. If you'd like to have an auction list, you can go right below me and you can get an auction list. We'll tell you when the auction is going to take place and where. I'm Ted Thomas. See you on the next video. Don't forget, request your free auction list right below me.